Opportunity Knocks by nikkiRA, Chapter 10. They decided, much to his chagrin, that Clovis was the best option. You guys are history, Percy had said. You dream about each other. There's a reason I didn't originally include you in this. You know, he had said sullenly. The short list was, well, pretty short. On it was Clovis, Shane from the Hephaestus cabin. Nico had once asked him to pass him a marshmallow. Apparently that meant they were meant to be. Connor stole. Nico had fought against this, but they were vehement. Annabeth's brother, Malcolm. He's really nice. Oh, great. And one of Piper's brothers, Ian. They had wanted to put Austin on the list, but Nico had utterly refused. He makes the decision to nick Shane and Ian off the list, because he had literally no history with them at all, and he refuses to try and date someone based solely on the fact that Leo said Shane gives him vibes, and Ian came out last summer. That left Clovis, Connor Stoll, and Malcolm. Great. Nico did not want to do this. Nico was not interested in Clovis. He was awake maybe a grand total of 3 hours a day, all in Connor Stoll, who once stuck a whoopee cushion in Nico's sleeping bag when he had stayed in the Hermes cabin when he first came to camp, or in Malcolm, who Nico barely knows and who is, like Annabeth, intimidatingly smart. And Nico also does not want to relive this day over for the rest of his life. The other problem, though, is that Nico doesn't know how to flirt. Nico barely even knows how to talk to people, and while ever since he cut his hair, little old ladies have kept coming up to him to pinch his cheeks and talk about how handsome he was, he always has to bite back a comment about how he was probably older than them. He isn't exactly comfortable enough in his body, or in his sexuality, to just randomly go up to, say, Connor Stoll and try and figure out if he is secretly in love with Nico. Why couldn't his life have been normal? When it is time to get Billy, he excuses himself from Jason under the pretense of heading back to his cabin. He runs through the same shtick with Billy as usual. Honestly, he's starting to feel a little sorry for the Cyclops, who has to keep getting run through with a sword day after day. He tells Jason and Percy to slow it down. Billy talks his ear off, and he, blissfully, gets to sink Drew indoors again. He is cornered by Will and his friends again, but this time, instead of heading off with Cecile after the horn blows, Llewellyn starts staring at him with her eyes narrowed. What are you looking at? He asks her nervously. She takes a step closer to him. You have magic oozing out of you, she says. You're practically dripping with it. Nico doesn't really know what that means. Sure, he has an idea as to why this probably is, but he isn't sure what someone looked like when they were oozing with magic. Nico didn't want to be oozing with anything. Oh, is what he says. Llewellyn takes another step forward, and Nico takes a step back, closer to Will, who has climbed down from a tree. Are you fucking around with magic, D'Angelo? She says accusingly. He knows she isn't trying to be mean. Llewellyn had always been nice to him, but Hecate kids were very, very particular about magic. That's dangerous shit. I haven't done anything, he says, which is true. He didn't ask him if a crazy love goddess was fucking around with magic, so he doesn't have to lie. She looks like she doesn't believe him, and she opens her mouth to say something when Will snaps. He said he hasn't done anything, Lou. Gods, why would he be playing around with magic anyway? Will's voice is astonishingly close to his ear, and when he turns around, he sees that they are closer than he had thought. Llewellyn rolls her eyes and mumbles something to Cecile, who laughs. Nico shifts uncomfortably from foot to foot, conscious of the laughter he thinks is directed at him. But Will grabs his arm. Come on, he mutters. Lou's just in a bad mood because she thinks it's unfair the children of the big three are on the same team. Which, it totally is, he says with a smile. Nico rolls his eyes. I was on guard, you see, with an 11-year-old. Yeah, where did he come from? Well, I imagine about 11 years ago, his father and some big fancy goddess of Olympus got together and did the adult dance, and then The adult dance! Nico turns red. That's what Bianca always called it, he finally says dejectedly. Will laughs loudly, hand still clutching Nico's arm. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard, D'Angelo. Gods, is that how she gave you the talk? Through dance euphemisms! You're the worst, Solace, he mutters to the ground, trying to wrench his arm out of Will's grasp. But Will just yanks him to him and grabs his other hand, as if they were about to do the waltz. What are you doing? Do you know how to dance? Do you know the dance from Pride and Prejudice and shit? I was born in the 30s, Will, not the 19th fucking century. Will you let go of my hand? Let's dance. You're fucked. But Will is stronger than he looks, and he is hauling Nico around, humming some sort of tune. It's almost funny, really. Nico was supposed to be falling for someone else, but here he was, dancing with Will fucking Solace. Will pulls him closer and tries to dip him. Will! Will cackles as Nico wrenches away from him, blushing a furious shade of red. When he turns away to see Jason and Percy a few feet away, watching him with stupid grins on their faces, Nico firmly ignores them. Will follows after him, humming incessantly. At dinner that night, Nico is distracted. Jason and Percy prattle on beside him, but the only thing he can focus on is the way it had felt to be pressed up against Will, and his breath in his ear as he hummed, and their interlocked fingers. It's distracting, to say the least. Not least because he was supposed to be focusing on other people. He forces himself to focus on the way Will had pulled away from him and ran instead of the way he had laughed. What? He forces himself to focus on the way Will had pulled away from him and ran instead of the way he had laughed in Nico's ear as he dipped him, and he makes a decision. Hey Clovis, he says at the bonfire that night, sitting down next to him. Clovis jerks awake. Nico, he says with a yawn. What's up? Will is looking at him funny from across the fire. So, for that matter, are Jason and Percy. Lily is sitting with the Hermes cabin and is watching the fire in amusement. You don't normally come to these, Nico says. This is awkward. Not because he didn't get along with Clovis, he did, but because he knows that he's not doing this to be friendly. Karen said I needed to be more involved in camp activities, he says. Clovis has this strange way of speaking where he talks in a slow drawl, and more than once he has drifted off in the middle of a sentence. Karen had that talk with me once, Nico mutters. Clovis grins lazily. There is a scream from the direction of the Hermes cabin, and Nico looks up to see Leo in front of Billy, flames licking up his body. He rolls his eyes as Billy looks on in horror. It's not as funny when you've seen it for the first time, he says, as Leo douses himself and explains to a panic-stricken Billy that no, it was okay, he was fireproof, see? Nico looks over when Clovis doesn't answer to see him fast asleep. Nico sighs and stands up. When he sits down beside Billy, Leo looks at him thankfully. Nico doesn't bother to tell him that he isn't doing this for him. Nico, did you see that? He can set himself on fire. I think it's even cooler than your power. Leo grins at him. Nico sticks his tongue out. Do you think our power's like that? Dunno, kid, Leo tells him. I can set you on fire if you want. We can see if you're a son of a... I can set you on fire if you want. We can see if you're a son of Hephaestus. Okay, Lily says, in that excited way kids do, without even thinking about the consequences. Nico rolls his eyes. Your mother was a goddess, Billy, not your dad. And even if you were, it's not likely that you'll be fireproof. He's right, yo. Your Uncle Leo is something of a messiah around here. I even died once. Uncle Leo, he mouths. Leo shrugs, while Billy starts peppering him with questions. Nico locates the Stoll brothers out of the corner of his eye. They have their heads together and are whispering. Nico can't even fucking tell which one is Connor. He nixes Connor Stoll right then and there. And a few minutes later, when everyone who had been chomping on marshmallows finds their mouths are stuck shut, Nico is glad. Okay, so Malcolm. Malcolm would have been the best choice anyway. He was awake most of the day, which made him a better option than Clovis, and he wasn't related to the Stoles, which makes him a better option than, well, either Stoles. He was pretty good looking too, and Annabeth had told him that he was bisexual, which obviously meant that they were soulmates. Luckily, Annabeth is sitting next to him, so he can make his way over there without seeming too suspicious. Hey, Nico, she says, as he sits next to her. He nods and then leans slightly across to say hi to her brother. Hi, Malcolm, right? If Annabeth, if Annabeth thinks it's odd that he is randomly introducing himself to her brother, she does not show it. She does, however, glare in the direction of the stalls and says, Malcolm was enjoying himself to the marshmallows. Malcolm nods at him solemnly. And if that's not a sign from the gods, Nico doesn't know what the fuck is. Somehow, he finds himself sitting next to Will again. He doesn't remember why. He had left Annabeth and had wandered, thinking about how much the gods hated him, remembering when his life was simple, and his feet must have led him back to Will. Stupid feet. Didn't you know he was supposed to be avoiding Will? You look exhausted, Will says worriedly. Are you okay? Nico lies down on the grass and throws his arm over his eyes. Do you ever get the feeling that the gods are all just sitting up there and laughing at you? He can't see Will's face, but he can hear the confusion in his voice. Maybe? Nico sighs. He suddenly feels Will lie down next to him, body pressed against his, and his breath gets caught in his throat. Are you sure you're alright? Will asks again. His voice is quiet and concerned, surprisingly close to his ear. Nico struggles to control his breathing. I'm just tired, Will. Will's fingers curl around his wrist. He assumes he's checking something. His pulse, maybe, or trying to figure out if he's been shadow traveling too much. But he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't move away. Eventually, his hand slips down into Nico's. Pull away, he tells himself. He doesn't. He thinks he might fall asleep, actually, because a few minutes later, he thinks, Will is gently shaking him. Campfire's over, sleepyhead, he says. The dying fire is throwing light across his face. Nico groans and sits up. Are you sleeping enough? Don't start with me. That's a serious question. Do you need help sleeping? No, well, I'm sleeping enough. The problem is that sleeping doesn't get me anywhere. Will narrows his eyes at him. Are you sure? Yes, he says in exasperation. Will sighs but backs off. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow then. Nico doesn't laugh, although he wants to. Yeah, okay. Nico heads back to his cabin, removes his light, and then crawls into bed. It isn't fair, he thinks. Will isn't fair. He's remembering the way he always held his hand, and he thinks it isn't fair at all the way Will does this to him. How is he supposed to get over him when this keeps happening, when Will keeps dragging him back? He closes his eyes. He doesn't want to think anymore. Not about Will, not about Aphrodite, not about anything. He just wants to go to sleep. So he does. Well, so I just checked thing. I genuinely thought it wasn't recording for a second. I panicked. I was like, no, I don't want to re-record it. I already half re-record the other one. Oh my leg is dead. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a heads up because I know people won't follow both this one and the Marauders one. Anyway, I recently fell into the trap of the SNDCF fandom. Anyway, if you see the next, I'm going to put a fanfic with SNDCF up next. Will it be with something else? Probably. I kind of like this whole jumping back and forth thing because it also makes me feel less bad about like not posting. Because I kind of felt bad with the Marauders one. It was like, oh Marauders, oh no, the Solangelo, the Solangelo watchers. What are they going to do? But yeah, no. Probably. I don't know. I forgot. Oh, microphone. I keep on forgetting about this. I got a microphone. I don't know if you notice the difference. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. I feel fancy. And the little microphone, it's a itsy bitsy microphone. And it's fluffy on the end, so I'm happy. I'm having fun, yeah. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye bye.